solely written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our board meeting today. I am Sue Wilson, President of the 2021 Board of Directors. During this meeting, we request everyone please turn off their cell phones or put them in vibrate mode. Effective January 2017, we started taping our board meetings, and by entering this room and or participating in the meeting, you are hereby granting permission to the RCSC to record and use on video and audio tape your image, likeness, and voice. You are also waiving any claims you may have against the RCSC for using your image, likeness, and voice in connection with the video and audio taping of this meeting and broadcast and or publication of such meeting for any purpose of the RCSC. We would also ask that no personal recording devices be used in this room during or after the meeting. In accordance with our corporate documents, a board meeting is generally held the second Monday and the last Thursday of each month, with the exception of July and August, when there are no board meetings. Before we begin the business at hand, I would like to introduce your board of directors and our management personnel. To my right, Treasurer Sheila Rooney. Morning. Director Darla Akins.
Good morning.
Director Gene Westemeyer.
Good morning.
Director Rich Hofer.
Morning.
And to my left, Vice President Mike Egge.
Good morning.
Secretary Dale Lair.
Good morning.
Director Steve Collins.
Good morning, everyone.
Director Dan Schroeder.
Good morning.
And Marcia Johnson, our Corporate Executive Coordinator.
Good morning.
Our management team, Bill Cook, our General Manager. Jan Eck, our retiring General Manager. Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance. Mike Whipperud, our Director of Buildings and Infrastructure. Chris Herring, our Director of Operations. Brian Duthu, our Director of Golf and Grounds. Jolynn Higgins, our Communications and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. And Teresa Serino, Director of Events and Entertainment, up in the box. I would also like to introduce our parliamentarian, Ray Chornenski, who will be joining our meeting today. I also want to recognize Alan Kleinhans, who's running around, and Mike Crawford, our audiovisual engineers, as well as Teresa up in the booth, who are doing the audiovisual today. Okay, Secretary Lair, do we have a board quorum?
Madam President, we do have a quorum.
Okay. Director Hofer, would you introduce your election?
Thank you, Madam President. We have several of our candidates here today. John Nowakowski could not be here today, but as I call your name, please stand and remain standing until everybody's been introduced. Frank Thorwald, Kat Fimmel, Candy Ruggiero, Alan Linevsky, Karen McAdam, and Stella Van Ness. These are the candidates running for the board this year. You can vote right now. Big hand, yeah. These are the candidates running for the board this year. You can vote online right now. You can also request an absentee ballot now by calling or stopping by the board office at Lakeview, or you can vote in person on December 14th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Social Hall 2 at Lakeview. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the agenda. Anyone have any corrections that you want to put on? Otherwise, I would like to remove agenda item 2 at this time. I believe we need a little more work on that area before we bring that to the board. So now I'm going to ask for an approval of the agenda. I need a motion.
Madam President, I so move.
Okay, moved by Secretary Lair,
Second.
seconded by Director Akins.
But,
Any
President, isn't it approve the agenda as amended?
approve the agenda as amended is correct. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion by Secretary Lair, seconded by Darla Akins. Discussion? Okay, I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Moving on to the minutes. I need a motion to approve the minutes of November 8th, 2021. Moved by Director Westmeyer,
Second.
seconded by Secretary Lair. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those who approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approval of the treasurer's report. I need a motion.
Madam President, I so move.
Secretary Lair made the motion,
Second.
seconded by Director Akins. Any discussion on it? Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll ask for a voice vote. All those who are approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, acceptance of the management report.
I so move.
Moved by Director Akins,
I second.
seconded by Vice President Eggy. Any discussion on the management report? Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those who approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, management report passes. We have no committee recommendations, so moving on to the agenda, motions on the agenda. Marcia, do we have anyone signed up to speak regarding any motions?
Jean Totten.
Okay, and just remember, as you come up, we ask that you state your name and your member number, and each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage.
Excuse me. Jean Totten, 148753. I'm addressing the third reading motion by Vice President Mike Agee regarding the standing committee. I would just like to mention that the Sunviews isn't a standing committee, and the website isn't a standing committee. The Sun City in Focus YouTube video, which has its purpose in highlighting extraordinary people, places, and things in Sun City, is created for the entertainment and enjoyment of prospective residents. So how is this an advisory committee to the board or the management? I feel it should be a club, not a committee. And what I would love to see instead is a membership committee of interested members who would like to have a rapport with the board. Regarding the third reading of motion number 3, phase 3 of the architectural proposal for Mountain View, as with the last 2 times, this motion has been read. I urge the board not to approve of this motion. The members still haven't received the cost of phase 1 and 2, which I know is coming today, but and we still don't know too much about phase 3. I think this should just be postponed until we know what we're going to see in the PIF. Third reading motion 4 by Rich Hofer about the petition circulation. I understand that it's now okay to put petitions within RCSC centers as long as the petition is not signed on RCSC property, that if one was to pick up a petition at a club that someone was handing out and took it out onto the sidewalk and signed it, and brought it back in, that's allowed. At least that's what I heard this week. So wouldn't that motion be obsolete? Let's see. I guess that's it. I had to get all my motions in 3 minutes because that's all I'm allowed. So if anybody wants to comment on the committee for that you're proposing, or Mountain View, or The petition business, please feel free. I have 33 minutes left. 33 seconds.
Madam President.
Yes, Director Collins?
You keep saying petitions. It is not petitions that are allowed to go inside of RCSC property.
Right.
It's the, I forgot the word.
Proxy.
Proxy vote. That can be somewhere and someone pick it up, take it home, fill it out, bring it back. It's not a petition.
Okay.
So you're confused there.
Okay. Time. Okay. Marcia?
Patrick Gannon.
Madam President, Board, I was going to speak to the motion that got pulled, so
Okay.
I don't have any comment.
Okay, thank you.
Lori Ellingson.
Lori Ellingson, 133335. As directors and officers of the RCSC Board, you have a fiduciary responsibility and relationship with the members of Sun City. This relationship imposes obligations of trust and confidence in favor of the members.
Lori, I need to know what
It requires you to
motion.
act in good faith and recognize the responsibilities that you have to represent the best interest of the members.
Lori, what motion are you speaking on?
Number 3,
Okay.
Mountain View. It means that you must exercise due care and diligence when acting for the community. The lawn bowling green at Mountain View was revamped in 2012 for a cost of $668,830. It was only 9 years ago that 2/3 of $1 million were spent on the lawn bowling green to give it a new and improved structure and appearance. In the last 2 board meetings, the board voted in favor of the proposed plans for Phase 3, which would mean demolishing the existing lawn bowling green and rebuilding it to the south. The pickleball courts at Mountain View were completed in 2014 for a cost of $288,519. RCSC used over $250,000 for that project, only to hastily vote after 2 readings to bulldoze those courts down and get rid of them. The courts are only 7 years old. The surface, lighting, fencing, and windscreens are in perfectly good shape. Does it make sense to get rid of something that is in good working order? The plans for Mountain View were based on input from a town hall meeting in 2016. That was 5 years ago. The world in which we live in is ever-changing, and a lot of change has happened in the past 5 years. The question of our time is whether we can make change our friend. Thomas Jefferson believed to persevere the very foundation of our nation, we would need dramatic change from time to time. Well, my fellow Sun City residents, this is our time. Let us embrace it. Before voting on the 3rd reading to approve the plans for Phase 3 of the Mountain View remodel, please ask yourself if your decision has been made with the needs of today and those who will be moving here within the next decade. Before you vote, please ask yourself if your decision has been made with common sense and with the care and responsibility that an ordinary, prudent person would exercise under similar circumstances.
Christy Svensson.
Christy Svensson, 137489. Madam President and Board, I am here to echo what Lori just said. I really feel that it is we're running way too fast with Mountain View. Thank you.
No one else has signed up to speak on the motions, Madam President.
Okay. So moving on the motions. Third reading by motion 1 by Treasurer Rooney.
I move that the 2022 operating capital budget is approved as recommended by the Finance and Budget Committee.
I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Director Schroeder. Any discussion on this?
I have discussion.
Yes,
Madam
Director
President.
Collins.
Yes, in the 2022 operating budget, they list replacing the carpet at Fairway. And my question is to Brian, have we tried to contact the manufacturers and tell them that we want a 15-year life on this rather than a 12-year, so then it could become a PIF item and not a capital improvement item?
You're talking about the lawn bowling?
Yes.
Okay.
Director Collins, Madam President, directors of the board, no, we have not asked the question of a 15-year life. I don't know what they could change on their manufacturing process that they would change from a 10-year. It's typically 10 years is what they quoted when it was initially installed. And we've gotten 12 years out of it, but we have not asked that question.
Because if I was a business and I wanted to do a $500,000 contract, I might look and try to do that for a company. Thank you.
We're trying to do it for less than $500,000. So.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, any other discussion? Secretary Lear?
I also have a question on sorry, I'm not connected today. I also have a question on the lawn bowling green at Fairway. And if this budget is approved as written, is that a done deal? And regardless of capacity, are we moving ahead on that?
Who wants to answer?
Secretary Laird, Madam President, Board of Directors. So it's in the budget because it was actually in there in 2020, but we removed it due to COVID reasons. So we added it back in because it had already been approved back then. So to answer your question is, things can change. The board can certainly say, we don't want to spend that money next year for that because we don't think that the utilization numbers are there. I agree. We should continue to look at those numbers, but that can change, and we can certainly push it out into the third and fourth quarter. And there is no timeline in terms of when we're planning on doing it, so we could push it to third and fourth quarter and assess and reassess then as well. So.
Okay. Yes, Secretary Lear.
Sorry. Anyway, I agree. I'm glad to hear that, and I would hope that we would hold on that until the capacity report, capacity analysis and utilization analysis report comes out.
Okay.
It should be sometime in the first quarter.
Okay, and we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam President?
Yes, Director Collins.
I have one more question for Brian. If and when we do the lawn bowling carpet, you're going to have one bid from the carpet manufacturer. Then there was also supposed to be work done on the underlayment. So that'll be a separate contractor, correct?
Director Collins, members of the board. The original bid that we received from the original manufacturer included the work on the plinth boards. We also have another manufacturer for just the carpet that doesn't include plinth board work currently.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the table to accept the 2022 operating and capital budget as recommended by the Finance and Budget Committee. This is a roll call vote. Director Schroeder.
Yes.
Director Hofer.
Yes.
Director Westmeyer.
Yes.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney.
Yes.
Vice President Eggy.
Yes.
Secretary Lair.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes third reading, final reading. Okay, third reading of motion 2 by Vice President Eggy.
I move to amend the bylaws, Article 10, titled Committees, Section 1, titled Standing Committees, letter I, titled Communications to Technology, to be changed to the Sun City in Focus Committee, with the committee purpose remaining the same.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Director Hofer. Any discussion on this?
Madam President,
Director Collins?
we're getting a lot of feedback about qualifications of being a standing committee. Is there anyone here that can tell us how it is not a standing committee?
Well, one of the things I want to point out is what we're voting on is not the committee itself, as it's a name change. The committee has already been established, voted on, and approved. So the motion today has nothing to do with should it be a committee, it's a change in the name.
Thank you.
And Madam President,
Yes, Director Akins.
well, not only is it still the same committee, just a name change, the purpose of the committee has not changed. So the purpose is still the same, and people, it is community members are on this committee that come in and they are running the committee and they are giving their input. So we, as board directors, we are only the chair and the co-chair. It's not our committee, it's your committee. The other committees are yours, because community members are members of the committees.
Madam President?
Yes.
I would like to mention, because the last meeting, there was a comment made about the Sun City in Focus Committee or Communications to Technology Committee being requested to videotape the various committee meetings. And one thing I want to point out is this is a committee that is comprised of members of the community that, number one, are utilizing their own equipment, audio, video. One of the members even has a teleprompter, and we run around, again, just trying to highlight things that are going on in the community. We do have an audio-visual department that is staffed with employees that are paid by the RCSC. You'll see them here, Alan in the back, Teresa, Mike over here. So it's, we don't run around and film things for the RCSC from a day-to-day operation standpoint. We're just a group of people that enjoy telling stories and highlighting things that are going on in the community. So everybody in this room is invited to come and be part of this. This is a committee for the members to participate in and come and contribute any way they see fit. So thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no more, take the vote. Director Hofer?
Yes.
Director Westmeyer?
Yes.
Director Akins?
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney?
Yes.
Vice President Eggy?
Yes.
Secretary Lair?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Schroeder?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes third and final reading. Third reading of motion 3, I move that the Phase 3 architectural proposal for Mountain View, including pickleball, lawn bowling, and mini golf, be accepted based on the contingency that the annual capacity analysis and the utilization capacity are within the trend line data parameters. Need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Secretary Lair. Any discussion on this?
Madam President.
Yes, Director Collins?
I voted no in this, and I'm going to continue to vote no, because as I look at, I still do not have the absolute numbers. I would like to know how much the theater costs by itself. I would like to know how much everything costs, and we're looking down the road, and a couple years after this is approved, they're going to tear down all the pickleball courts, lawn bowling, and then it might be 10 years before they are put back in, which none of us will be here. Probably a lot of us won't even be on the earth in 10 years. Hopefully not, but
Speak for yourself.
I know we all plan to, but so I'm looking at next year's budget, I'm looking down the road, and we still have not even come up with a contingency for the courts that we take down, and we're already planning on building something 10 years down the road. I just think that we're doing things backwards, and we cannot predict that far down the road. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Madam President.
Yes, Director Akins?
I know I find it kind of fascinating that you want a figure on something that you don't know what it is. I mean, anytime you want to remodel something or build something, you have to come up with a design. And then you have this design, and then you give it to some architects or remodelers, whoever it is, and then they're going to take your design, and then they're going to give you an estimated cost. So I'm not sure how we can get an estimated cost before you have a design in mind or before you tell somebody what you want.
Madam President?
Yes, Director Collins?
That is totally fine, Mike, but we're trying to do things before we have the estimate, before we know the price. Because when it comes back, if you're a homeowner or whatever and you want a room built and the room costs, they come back at $100,000 and you only have $50,000 in your pocket, you sit that contractor and designer back down there, the designer, and say, hey, you got to scale that back. We don't have enough money in our pocketbook.
We're not there yet.
And that's why I say we're trying to go ahead before we know our figures. That's all I'm saying. We need to know the figures before we proceed.
I'd like to, yeah, Secretary Lear, go ahead.
No, we've gone around and around in circles on this. We left Phase 3 open. Let's work on Phase 1, Phase 2. But there was such an uproar from pickleball and other areas that, oh my God, what's going to happen to our group? What's the plan? We need a plan. So this is kind of after meeting with lawn bowling and meeting with pickleball and getting their input. This is a proposed plan. It's a proposed plan contingent on capacity and utilization. There is nothing carved in stone here. If the height variance is too high, we can go down underground a little bit. I mean, everybody's getting so worked up about this, and it's 10 years out. This was really designed to say, yes, pickleball is important. Yes, lawn bowling is important. We will put something in there. This is what we've gotten input from these organizations, these clubs, and this is what we want to, make sure that they're comfortable with this. It doesn't make any difference whether you do it or not. This was really to help the members have an idea of what the future is going to be. So, I'm getting feedback and negative from the clubs that we talk to. It's like, whatever. I don't know what I don't know what to say to please people anymore.
Madam President?
Yes, Director.
I guess I'm right along the same lines as Director Lair. I guess the only time you guys are satisfied is when somebody's saying something you want to hear. But when you say something you don't want to hear, it's absolutely, perfectly silent. But because Director Collins is saying something that you're already saying, well, we need to know some money before we have a design, which, oh, that's backwards. Well, I'm sorry. We were trying to let you know that we're thinking of you, and we're trying to get something in place so that the future boards will know that we've already talked about this, and we've already tried to get you in line. We're already trying to get you in place. We're trying to put you there so you'll have a place and not sweep it under the rug or put you under the table and forget about you. So the only thing we're trying to do is let you know we're thinking about you, and I guess you're not happy with that either. But I'm okay with that. I taught school for a living. I'm used to this.
Director Collins?
Madam President, thank you. My comments are probably going to upset the pickleball people, and that's okay. I'm just here on the financial part that we need to know what we're going to spend before we start doing this, what we have. I mean, we can sit here and make you all warm and fuzzy all you want, but it's not going to give you pickleball courts down the road. I'm sorry. I mean, we have to proceed in a logical manner where we know our budget, we know what we have and what we can spend, and in a reasonable time period. Thank you.
I would like to comment that this is a proposal. the board, before anything is ever done, is going to have to look at the financial picture. But this gives some protection to those clubs, also gives protection to the future board, so that they know, yes, we've talked about this, but they've got to look at these parameters as well as the financial picture before it can move ahead. When you talked about contingency, they're still working on temporary courts where we can put them for the pickleball once we do take the pickleball courts at Mountain View for the construction. Unfortunately, there is not a contingency plan for lawn bowling other than the fairway. So, I mean, that's the idea behind this. It was to protect not only those two clubs, but to also protect the future board. Okay, any other discussion? Okay. We're talking about Phase 3, the architectural proposal for Mountain View, including pickleball, lawn bowling, and mini golf, and it to be accepted on the contingency, the annual capacity analysis, and the utilization capacity are within the trend line data parameters. Calling for a vote. Director Westmeyer.
Yes.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney.
Yes.
Vice President Eggy.
Yes.
Secretary Lair.
Yes.
Director Collins.
No.
Director Schroeder.
Yes.
Director Hofer.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes final reading 8-1. Okay, third reading, motion 4 by Director Hofer.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to amend the bylaws, Article 9, Section 2, subsection B.1 as follows. Petitions will not be circulated within or at RCSC facilities, adding the phrase, except for those RCSC board candidates.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Secretary Lair. Any discussion on this?
Madam President?
Yes, Director Collins?
I think it would be, since the question came up earlier, just a quick explanation of the difference between a proxy and a petition for our members. They were saying the petitions.
Right. But a petition,
And maybe
Yeah.
an explanation to them, just to explain the difference between a proxy and a petition. All right.
Okay. Well, the proxy is where you're asking for, to vote for someone, take their vote. A petition is where they're signing up and you have several names on a certain issue.
So that doesn't pertain, this does not pertain
To proxies.
to proxies at all. Just so
Absolutely
everyone
not.
knows that out there.
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
And Madam President,
Yes, Director Akins?
I would also like to remind everybody that this is not something new. This is something that was accidentally omitted when we were doing a combination of the bylaws and policy. So we're just trying to make sure that it gets reinstated, it gets put back in there. So it's not something that all of a sudden, when I ran for the board 4 years ago, this was in place, this was in policy, and accidentally got removed, and we're now just trying to put it back in. And in order to get it back in, we have to go through this process.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we are voting on allowing petitions for RCSC board candidates only on RCSC grounds. Going for the vote, Director Akins?
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney?
Yes.
Vice President Eggy?
Yes.
Secretary Lair?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Schroeder?
Yes.
Director Hofer?
Yes.
Director Westmeyer?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes final reading, 9-0. Okay. All right, we have one consent agenda, and it's a request to approve the decharter of the All Board Games Club at the request of the club.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Director Schroeder. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Treasurer Rooney. Any discussion on this? Yes, Secretary Lair.
Yeah, in reading the supporting documentation for this motion, it seems like it was related pretty much to COVID-related type issues, and I'm just wondering if things get back to normal, do they have the waiting period, or would they be able to, I don't know. What you got to say about it?
Professor Herring.
Madam President, Board of Directors, I think there was a question in there.
got up a little bit early. Yes, it is related to COVID. I think what that club has found is they like a smaller venue of meeting together in homes rather than getting together as a large group. They're more comfortable in that arena. I don't foresee that changing with a club request. They may come back later in the future for that, and we would review that request at that time. But based upon how the club has communicated in this instance, I don't see that that would be something that would come back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, we're talking about the decharter of the All Board Games Club at the request of the club. Treasurer Rooney?
Yes.
Vice President Eggy?
Yes.
Secretary Lair?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Schroeder?
Yes.
Director Hofer?
Yes.
Director Westermeyer?
Yes.
Director Akins?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that passes 9-0. Okay, Marcia, as we're moving on to the agenda items, one of the things we're going to do first is I want agenda item number 1 to be presented before we have member comments. I think it will help clarify. So, General Manager Bill Cook.
Thank you, Madam President, Board of Directors. First of all, I'd like to thank my team for helping me pull this together. It truly was a team effort. A lot of time and effort went into this. What we wanted to do is make sure that we have a very objective methodology with respect to how we calculated the numbers. And we had input from from B&I to make sure that the timing as well was something that was within our scope to be able to do all of these projects within our projected time frame. So with that, I would like to start with the page with the title Preservation and Improvement Fund Budget Assumptions by Project. So what this shows is the projects, the total expenditure expected, as well as what the assumptions were in coming up with the final number. So the first project that you see is the Viewpoint Lake repair. That's to repair the leaking lake, as we all know. And we have a cost estimate of $6 million. And so that came from the 2 engineering firms that we had hired to come and give us an estimate as to how we should repair and how much it's going to cost. So this includes both replacing the liner as well as replacing the wall. And fortunately, they both came in with the exact same solution with the liner and the replacement of the wall. And their dollar amount that they're estimating both came in very close. So $6 million is where they both, slightly under 6, is where they came in. So I put it in at 6. Next is, how do you want to answer questions as we go through, or?
How about if he presents and then we jot your questions down, then you can ask afterwards, please.
Okay, very good. Then we have the Lakes East-West and Grounds Maintenance Facility. That was approved already, so that's $4 million. We have a signed contract with Porter. We actually have a kickoff meeting after this meeting, so things are going very well there. The next line item is the Arizona Department of Water, ADWR, Fifth Management Plan Golf Course Water Reduction. And this, everybody knows, is coming down the line. ADWR is reducing the amount of water that they're allowing for golf courses based on, the requirements of the state. And so they're reducing golf courses down to 90 acres of turf. So they're only allowing water for 90 acres of turf, and we have a lot of golf courses. South is over 100 acres above the 90-acre requirement. So There's a lot of work that has to be done for us to come in compliance with the fifth management plan. They're also only, at this point, only allowing 1 acre of low water use plants per hole. So if you remove 110 acres at south, that could potentially be an issue, but at this point, that's what the plan is projecting. This will result in roughly a reduction of about 600 acre feet. So this has been going on for quite some time over the past year in terms of coming up with what we think the cost estimates are going to be. So we've also incorporated, or included, I should say, Gary Brawley, our golf course architect. He's been with us for over 15 years, and so he knows us very well, and he's been very accurate in terms of estimating costs for us. So we've taken his cost estimates to remove turf and replace it with granite at $20,265 an acre. To upgrade the irrigation, including a green rebuild, is $7.4 million. We're going to plant Tiff-Tuff Bermuda grass. That would be $76,730 an acre. And then to plant low water use plants, it would be $15,500 an acre. So those are the numbers that we used to come up with the $20,522,000. So the key here, though, is that at this point, ADWR it looks like they will allow they'll give a 5-year variance. So 1/1/2025 is when the fifth management plan is expected to start. And so in discussions with them, and as well as attending webcasts that they've had, they are going to allow 5-year variance. So that's the assumption at this point. So it's a tight schedule to get all of our golf courses in compliance in that 5-year variance, or within that 5-year time frame. We have had a meeting roughly 2 weeks ago, Jan Eck, and I had a meeting with them, a face-to-face meeting with their deputy director, and we proposed an extension of the timeline to allow us to come into compliance. And this is something they're reviewing, but they did not give us any indication as to whether or not they were going to accept our proposal. So we have to go with the conservative approach of making sure that we fall within the 5-year variance. I also have included in all of these assumptions as we push projects out or have projects out into future years, I've calculated a consumer price index bump or increase for those. So I assumed a 2.33% consumer price index. That's the average of the last 5 years. Now, we know that this year we're heading down a path of about 4%. But hopefully that comes into check going into next year. So that was the assumption. So again, we tried to include as much as we possibly could and to mitigate any increases that may occur. Okay. So the next is the Mountain View Center replacement phase 1. So that includes the Performing Arts Center and the gymnasium. The total is $24,527,849. So we did receive a rough order of magnitude pricing from Alston Construction. So it's based on the option 2 that was already approved for Mountain View. And it was drawn up by CCBG and presented. The PIF amount also includes $2 million in furnishings required for each facility and $2 million for permits, design, and other owner items. So we made sure that we included all those items as well. Phase 2 of Mountain View, that includes the pool. That's $2,788,000. Again, that's the Alston rough order of magnitude estimate. And then we also have around $200,000 in furnishings required for the pool. And then phase 3 for Mountain View, that was approved today. We're looking at $12,361,000 for phase 3. And if I broke it out between each of the activities, so the first is the pickleball pavilion, which is at the bottom of the page. So that's a new 2-story, 16-court air-conditioned facility coming in at $9,417,774. So what I used was the rough order of magnitude pricing from Alston for the phase 1 gymnasium at Mountain View. That cost was roughly $7 million, plus an additional $1 million for furnishings and courts, plus the consumer price index increase. So we know that the gymnasium is a 2-story facility. We know that the pickleball pavilion is going to be a 2-floor facility. They're going to be roughly the same in size. Therefore, that's what we used to make the cost estimates. Then if you go to the next page, at the top of the page, lawn bowls. So to replace that, what we're going to do is replicate the Fairway facility. So I used what we did, or what the cost was for Fairway, and then I used a CPI, Consumer Price Index adjustment, based on the number of years it's going to take for us to actually do that. So that comes out to about $943,000. And then the mini golf course, so we're going to construct a new 18-hole ADA compliant mini golf course. I put in $2 million. It is an estimate. I did do some research on it, and there's really not a lot of information. And what I do know is that a majority of the cost for mini golf courses is typically the land. So therefore, we own the land, so hopefully we'll be able to, this $2 million will be a conservative estimate since we don't have any land costs. Next, we have the Grand Avenue Center Building 2. We know it's complete. We still have an unfinished portion of Building 2. We still have PIF amount remaining of $589,000. I know Chris Herring, our Director of Operations, has a plan. I believe we're going to consolidate a couple clubs, but I don't want to say anything until we have that finalized. So to finish out that space, we have that amount remaining to do that. Then we have the softball clubhouse lighting and also the storage facility. It will be included in here, and that was already approved, but we didn't have any dollar amount, nor did we have a date. So that was board approved already. Originally, when we had it approved and in the budget, it was $800,000. I bumped it to $1 million to include the the storage facility. So at this point, we believe that $1 million should cover that. The Riverview Maintenance Facility, so we're going to replace the current facility, a cost of $2,166,000. So I took the Lakes maintenance cost, which we know. I did a CPI increase, and then I'm assuming it's a 6,000 square foot facility. So that's actually bigger than the facility that's there now. But it's not. We know that it's not going to be as big as Lakes because Lakes is also grounds as well, so there's a lot more that they're covering there. The North Maintenance Facility, so we're going to replace that facility as well. $2,376,000. So we're again using Lakes maintenance, a CPI increase, and 6,000 square feet. So this is out further, so that's why it's a little more than the Riverview maintenance. So that's what's affecting the increase over Riverview. Then we have the Lakes golf course patio and golf cart storage, so remodel and expand. So I put $1.5 million in there as the estimate, but there's really not enough information on what we're actually going to do there. I don't think that it was ever really fully discussed. I know there's been discussions on some things that are going to be done, so I put $1.5 million in there. And then we have the new administration building at Lakeview, so a new facility for the board and all the administrative staff, $4,510,000. So we took the Mountain View cost per square foot and a CPI increase, and we assumed a 10,000 square foot requirement for this facility. So we used an average for administrative space, and we assumed there would be about 50 people in that building at 200 square foot per person to come up with that number. And then we have the Lakeview Center, so replace the current facility, roughly $21 million. And we took the Mountain View cost per square foot plus a CPI increase. And the new building will be similar size to the current Lakeview facility. So that was the assumption there. So we have a total PIF budget of $103,404,880.
Okay. Are there any questions on these assumptions before he goes on to the next part from the board?
Madam President.
Yes,
Yeah, I've
Director
got-
Hofer.
First of all, General Manager Cook, I'd like to thank you for the vision. Looking out to 2035, I think, is important. We need to know what we need that far out, and that's good. I don't think we've learned our lesson, though, when it comes to getting swags, getting the guesses and the numbers. I talk to financial people probably 3-4 days a week all over the country. Nobody is thinking of a CPI of 2.5% to 3%. Everybody next year the consensus is 7% to 10%, and it's 10% to 13% if things continue on the same way in 2023, with a recession added in 2023. That doesn't reflect anything here.
So, Director Hofer, if I could address that. Yes, I agree with you 100%, but I wanted to be objective, so I used a historic value of 5-year average, a prior 5-year. The 4%, the things that I've been reading as well, the 4% hopefully will be an anomaly and will come back down, and I believe the administration is trying to get that back down into the 2% range. I can't predict that, but I wanted to present something that was objective, that I could, because I can sit here and guess about what the future is going to be, but then you could question that, and I would have no objective measurement to come back and say this is what I used. So that's why I used the 5-year. I could have used a 3-year, but that was less.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand that, and that's fine.
Right.
My point being, we always err on the revenue side with PIF on the very conservative side, and you have down 1,500 houses, and I like that. Right. We're on track this year to do 25, maybe 2,600, which is going to add about $3.5 million more to the PIF than what is currently budgeted, and which is good. And I see that we're doing that again. That's fine, not a problem. I would almost rather see us go the other way and go very liberal on the expense side to make sure that it evens out. Because if we get $3.5 million more, where you have us actually in the hole for a couple of, at $3,500 for a PIF fee, and we get an extra $3.5 million, it wipes that out.
Okay, but I want questions right now on the assumption. He's going to get to the next part, which you're addressing.
The only other assumption I would have is with ADWR, and do you have a plan B if they come back and say January 1st, 2025?
No. Do I have a plan B? There's no indication in our meeting that we had that they would expect that all of our golf courses would be in compliance on 1/1/25. They very explicitly have said you can apply for a variance. I believe that that variance is going to be approved, and there should not be any issues there. I believe that there's little risk that that would happen. I believe that actually, I'm hoping that the plan that we proposed, if not in full, that they come up with some hybrid that would allow us to actually extend some of our work. I'm also hoping that when we do south, and we're doing south first, is that maybe we find that we are going to use less water than what we had expected in talking with Brian, and maybe some of our costs may not be as much for some of the other golf courses. I think in the end that's something that we won't know until we start the construction on South.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, any other questions, Director Collins?
Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work you put into this. I know it had to take you quite a while. I would just like, do we have anything, any kind of, is this $6 million for the lake? Is that a figure that is reliable and that's it?
Well, we have 2 engineering firms, and one of those is Pace. So on the engineering side, they're the ones that did this estimate, but they also have a construction side. I'm hoping that they consulted with their construction side, because they probably will bid, I know they will bid on this RFP when we present it. So if they come back at 9 or 10 million, something that's considerably higher than what they estimated, that doesn't look good for them. So I'm assuming that the $6 million is probably pretty good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam President.
Yes, Director Akins.
As far as the ADA accessible mini golf course, I thought we had agreed we would do the mini golf course, but I thought we agreed it didn't have to be ADA accessible. I thought we had already talked about that.
We can do that. I don't remember that, though, to be honest.
No?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So the next slide is the eye chart. I apologize, but it's the only way that I could do it. So that is titled at the top, Preservation and Improvement Budget Detail by Project by Year. So it is the eye chart. So I'm going to try and use the pointer. Our AV guys are very good about blowing things up there, so hopefully I can walk us through this. So what I started with, so if you look at the top, this box here, I wanted to get to a beginning balance starting in 2022. So I used our PIF fund balance as of 9/30 of this year, which was $25,191,000. And then I used the October or the September collections that would be transferred into October, so that was on the Treasury report as well. That was $754,000, so we know that that was transferred in. And then I assumed for November, December, a total of $875,000. So our beginning balance expected is $26,820,540. Okay? As Director Hofer pointed out, if you look at the left, oops, right here. So we have two scenarios that we're presenting. Okay, so we're assuming in both scenarios that it's a 1,500 home resale in any given year, and that, as Director Hofer pointed out, is what we use in our budget, and we try and be conservative with that budget. And this year and last year, we know we exceeded that, but I think there are some economic conditions that are driving that as well that I don't know that we'll see. And then we're using the current PIF amount at $3,500, and then we have a second scenario or a middle case forecast using a PIF of $4,000. So as you can see, this starts in 2022 and goes all the way out to 2035. Okay? So if you look at 2022, and I won't go into a whole lot of detail on this because I just really went through all of the projects. So here's the spending. So you can see in the green box, all of these projects are approved projects. So they've been approved by the budget, by the board. And so I had those in there to have just a separate, income and expense associated with those that are approved. And then below that, I have in blue or light gray, thanks guys, blue or light gray, those are the projects that really have not been approved, but they should all be familiar to everybody because they had been approved at one time. Now you notice that I do have softball down in the gray area. I only put it there because we didn't have an amount nor a time frame, so I just put it down there, okay? So as you can see, as we move out into 2024, we're fine. And we have a lot of expenditures associated with Mountain View. But then when we hit 2025, if you could scroll down to the bottom, guys, there you go. I have highlighted in yellow, so at the $3,500 line, that's this assumption, we do turn negative based on the numbers that I just gave you, okay? So we turn negative by $779,000, by $586,000 in 2026, and then we turn positive again, but it's about $1,196,000. So Director Hofer, you make a great point. If my 2.33% CPI is wrong and we continue at a higher rate, then these numbers would get worse. But on the other hand, if we continue at a 2,000 house turnover, then these numbers turn positive again. However, they are at a low amount. So what happens is that if we don't go to a 4,000 now, and not that I'm telling or advising that we do that, it's just if we don't, then we've lost that time to build up the PIF budget in case we do see a CPI increase, or if a number in here, if an assumption was wrong. So also, if there's any other projects that may come up, I'm not I'm certain that new members are going to come in, and there may be new projects that we may want to initiate. We may not have the funds to do that. So I'm just presenting that information to you. And then if you look at the 2035, so if everything was perfect, then we would be roughly short by about $3 million at the $3,500 level. Now, at the 4,000 level, at 1,500 homes, we stay positive throughout. As we start the ADWR mitigation, it does come down lower, but I would feel pretty comfortable with that. So that's where we are, and this is kind of the nitty-gritty detail. I have a model where I could change CPI, and it will tell me what the numbers are. I can change the number of homes. I could change the PIF amount. I have it up and running. If you have any questions on what-if analysis, we can do that. But this is kind of the base case with respect to the PIF.
Okay, questions for Mr. Cook? Secretary Lear?
Really more of a comment. I know there was a motion, someone made a motion at a previous meeting about increasing the PIF, and this is really well done. I like that it's in Excel and that you can shift things around a little bit. But it makes me a lot more comfortable to approve something once you have the numbers and the facts right in front of you. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam President.
Director Collins?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. General Manager Cook. In the year 2024 is when the phase 1 of Mountain View, you're showing a payment of $7 million. So then it will be completed. So then you would break ground in 2025? Is that?
No.
We'll break ground before we have money?
We actually start December 2022. We start in 2022 of phase 2. I'm sorry, phase 1. So we have permitting and we have those types of activities that need to take place next year. We could break ground next year. It could be 2023. I can't give you an exact time, but we expect, before we start expending the $15 million in 2023, we would have broken ground.
So we're not going to have all the money we need before we tear down?
We do.
Okay.
The analysis shows that we have the money to complete all of the projects up till 2024. It's in 2025 is when we possibly could run below. Now, it could be that we continue at the 2,000 home level at 1,500, and we might be okay.
Thank you.
Secretary Lear?
Can I address the part that's the schedule?
Yes.
The PIF?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Well, actually, so the next slide is actually
I wasn't sure.
the schedule by year of what we're going to do, which is really what you would be approving along with whatever the PIF amount is going to be. So.
Okay, so can I ask a question on that, or do you want
Absolutely, yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. I didn't know if you were presenting something on that. Okay. I just have a few questions. On the new administrative building, you're planning it to be at Lakeview. That's correct.
I believe that
Okay,
was always the plan, is to do it where the warehouse is, I believe is what the plan was.
Okay. Oh.
But I don't know. I have no idea. These are just discussions and hearsay, so please don't quote me on that.
Okay. My only comment would be, with the timing of everything, and it's no one's fault, but, we are a golf community, and we are legally mandated to meet the requirements by the state of Arizona. We are spending a lot of money on golf. My only concern is, the Lakeview Center replacement is down in 2035, and to be quite honest with you, from a safety and security perspective, there's a utility capacity problem at Lakeview. I would make a little sign of the cross and hope that you can hang out that long, because I think it's a little, you've got the Lakes patio rebuild and expansion. Again, it's another golf-related issue, and I understand all that, but it's maybe being a little more sensitive, saying we've spent all this money on golf, maybe Lakeview would be better moved up. That's just my opinion. I know this is a working document and that things can change with future boards, but that would be my comment.
We could do that, but I believe then it would definitely change the PIF requirement.
Oh.
If we pull up roughly $22 million in expense. Trust me, I've spent many hours adjusting.
That's a big hit. I totally get it.
Right. I would love to pull that up earlier, but it's, it's how the numbers lay out based on our assumptions.
Okay, hang on just a second. Director Collins?
Yes, I'm looking at the Riverview Maintenance Facility and the North Maintenance Facility. I know our buildings are rough. I'm not going to deny that. My only question is, we're doing turf reduction. We're going to get rid of a lot of turf, which means we should need a lot less equipment to do our courses because they will be getting smaller. We're going to need different kinds of equipment. And we have two fantastic maintenance facilities now, and with reducing the stuff, we should be able to, when a piece of equipment breaks, put it on a trailer and take it to one of our two facilities to be fixed. And these facilities at these two should be just mere parking places, pole barns, if you may, which should be a lot less cost than the ones we built already. I mean, significant, because we're just trying to keep our equipment safe and out of the sun, it would seem to, and do the maintenance at our other facilities. That's all.
I mean, I know logistically that's probably not possible, but I could certainly have Brian address it, or her swan song, Miss Janik.
Madam President, Board of Directors, the thing that you have to realize is that if we had a piece of equipment here, then this golf course couldn't open over here. So we have to have equipment at every golf course. And the fact that it's smaller and has less turf, we still have to have the same. We still have to have greens mowers. We still have to have turf mowers. And the only way, and we also start on what's called a double sheet. So we're starting on 1st and 10, which actually requires more equipment because we have to get the first 9 holes and the last 9 holes ready at the same time on all 8 golf courses. So it sounds like a great idea, but it's not a functional process to running the golf courses.
Okay, while you're on that point, so I was talking strictly the maintenance facilities be done at the 2 sites if they need to do major work on this equipment. The other thing is starting on hole 10. Are we going to do this year? Because we didn't do that last year.
We've been doing double sheets forever.
No,
Yes.
they stopped it last year.
We've been doing it.
They stopped it.
No. One more thing before I take my seat. Remember this when you're talking about PIF. We have a debt liability of $750,000 in our articles, which means basically you must have all the money already in the bank before you start any PIF project. Otherwise, you create a liability and you're in default. Okay?
Director Collins,
Yes,
members of the
yes,
board.
sir. Thank you.
Regarding the question of double sheets, we've moved away from the double sheets more than we have in the past. We currently have 3 courses a day that are straight sheets for the most part, but we still have plenty of days where we do crossovers, so we still need to be prepared for those days that we do crossovers to have the equipment available.
Because I was approached, and a numerous amount of our members like the double sheets. And that's why I was so, when she said that, I think that's a good idea to get back to the double sheets because I think our people really enjoyed that.
I have had tremendous feedback since we went to straight sheets during COVID of how much people have appreciated straight sheets over crossovers. So I I have no real percentages to give you, but if I had to take a stab, I'd say you probably find 20% of the people that love crossovers, 20% that like straight sheets, and 60% that just want to play golf and don't really care. But
thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, Director Westmeyer.
It's your turn in the barrel. Bill,
Yes.
you know, when I look at this, and we've talked about this before, you know, I'm a big proponent of the PIF because I think it really brings Sun City and we can enhance all of our facilities. What if we were to go to 5,000 on a PIF fund, and would that allow us then to move some of these projects forward? I don't know, Dale wants to worrying about Lakeview and all that, you know.
The short answer is yes. I believe that it would. I could plug it into the model and tell you what the numbers are, but it would.
Because, see, I'm just afraid that swag, which we're doing a lot of swagging right now, and I do that myself, and you know that, so that we may end up deeper in the hole than we think because of the cost of all the products seem to be going really high. And I just think we get down the road here, we may have to delay a lot of things because we don't have the money. And we do have a $700,000 limit that we can be in debt on. And without PAF fund, we're really stuck.
Right. And the other risk is if we're in the middle of a project and our expenses are higher than expected, we may have to stop that project in the middle, which would also increase cost and those types of things. So there are risks there as well. I agree.
So, I mean, I think we've got to look forward and make some assumptions more than we have here that money may not be available.
I mean, I tried to use, you know, the numbers that we have today. For example, if I'm looking at all of the numbers we received from Mountain View, I mean, that's current data with a CPI bump. Yeah. And then Lakes West for all of the golf maintenance facilities, I use that as our current. And we know that that was surprisingly higher than we thought at $4 million. So I think we're being somewhat conservative, and we included CPI. But
the other question I have is the state really going to allow us the variance? I know you feel confident it may. Jan feels confident it may. I don't feel confident. 10 years ago, I said the state's going to be after us on water restrictions. No one believed me then, but you're starting to believe me now. I don't think they're going to. I just think they may pull the rug out from underneath us when you get somebody else in there and says, hey, well, you can't have it. But that's my only concern about why we need to generate a little bit more money for us to have a backup.
In discussions with our attorney, the statutes currently are clear that you can't make an economic negative impact to an individual organization. And so this clearly would be having 8 golf courses.
Yeah.
I can't predict the future. It very well may happen, and then we would have to address that. But as of today, with the current administration at ADWR, I feel comfortable that the variance will be granted. Jan, you may have a different opinion, or? Okay.
She agrees with you, yeah.
Okay.
She hardly ever agrees with me, but that's okay.
Okay. Treasurer Rooney?
Just real quick, this information's really good. We talk about the PIF, and Director Westheimer thought maybe 5,000 would be good. There's nothing to say that in this plan that you can't adjust the PIF as you go along. You can increase it every couple of years. You can decrease it if you see that you don't need the cash. You can take projects off the plan that you don't have the money for down the road.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's really just a plan that every single company, corporation, everybody else uses. You have to adjust it as you go along as you need to.
Right.
So you have to start somewhere, just like we are with other things that we're working on. So I think it's a good start.
Okay.
Madam President?
Yes, Director Akins.
Yeah,
and then Director Hooper.
I didn't want to say anything earlier because I wanted Bill to present do his presentation first. However, Director Collins, you have your figure there for Phase 3 on Mountain View. You said you wanted the number, and right here it says 12 million.
That's
So
projected.
I think that if you had looked at your paperwork earlier, you would have seen that.
Madam President.
Okay, all right.
I have looked at my paperwork. That figure has absolutely no merit in 12 years, 13 years down the road.
It is a projected, it is not a
projected
definite.
figure.
But it's not a definite at this time. Director Hofer.
Thank you, Madam President. General Manager Cook, the last time we increased the PIF was in 2015, March of 2015, and it took effect, I think it was November of that year. We gave people a little bit of a leeway. And it went from 3,000 to 3,500. How far out do you feel comfortable at this point in time? And again, I'm asking you to look into your crystal ball, and I realize that. But how far out do you feel comfortable that if the $4,000 PIF was, if that was the number that was adopted, and it was a $500 increase effective January 1st, which I believe is what you're asking for, how far out do you feel that could last before you need to increase it again?
So looking at this analysis, it shows that at the $4,000 level, the lowest that we reach is in 2025, and we're at $2.2 million positive. Okay, so that's what the analysis shows. If all the numbers on here are relatively close, then we, in 15 years, show that we would have an excess of $7.4 million to cover that.
So what you're saying, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that in your estimation, based on these numbers, we've never gone 14 years without a PIF increase. That's never been done before. I think 6 is about the outside.
Right.
But you're saying that we could go 14 years.
I am not saying that.
Okay.
I am not saying that.
He's not saying that.
You thought I was trying to trap you, huh? Yeah.
Yes, Secretary Lair.
You know, I know there's a lot of anxious people about increasing the PIF fee, but I think when you look back at all the facilities that we have to offer here in Sun City, and people have a good idea of what it costs to replace and update and ongoing, I think, you know, $4,000, $4,500 is not a lot when you're buying into. And that's what new residents moving in here are buying into what we already have. So I just think we should be proactive and not reactive. And my concern is the housing market is good right now, you know, but every time there's a bubble, there's a drop. And, you know, new home sales, and I know it's a retirement community, but we are impacted. I just look at the last housing bubble, and we did take a hit a little bit for a few years. So that's why we could conservatively hit that 1,500 homes.
Right. I think we hit 1,200 and 1,300 in consecutive years during that.
And I'd just like to point out that it would not just be new people to our community. It could also be people who are buying a second house or people who did not pay the PIF because of when they bought in the first time that they would be paying it now. So it does affect not just new, but it would affect current residents as well. Okay.
Madam President?
Yes, Director Collins?
I would like to say that no matter how much you raise this PIF, we can spend every penny of it. If we don't change our practices and the way we put things out for bid, we can use every penny every time. And it's just, I mean, when you put something out, you ask the architect to redraw it if it costs too much. And we'll, you know, I want to see that happen, but we haven't even we aren't even talking about that. And
I guess I'd like clarification there, because I believe we have many processes in place, including the bid commission, which is the ultimate gatekeeper of what we do. We go out and we have our bylaws are very clear on how we can approach vendors to do construction projects for us. We need to get 3 vendors. We can certainly qualify a vendor if we have a very good relationship. I know that Mike has done a great job of pushing back. I know just with the lakes maintenance project, we've already sat in meetings to discuss how we can, collectively save money, and we've already done that.
I mean,
so we're always, and as an accountant, as somebody who has run businesses, that's my goal. I push back on vendors to make sure that we get the best price.
I mean, we're a $100 million company, and we're going to spend $40 million on one facility. We can't do that for every facility. We can't be spending that kind of money.
So can I ask Director Collins, what is it you'd like to cut out?
You won't give me the prices on things, so how can I tell you what to
just
cut?
from his projection alone, what is it that you would project that we would remove?
I would send Mountain View back and get a lower bid or go lower drawing and cost analysis from the designer.
We currently don't have the bid.
Well, then how can we be going forward with a budget or a PIF and amounts for the building if we don't know what it costs? That's what I'm saying. It's too early for this. We don't know any of it. That's it. I'm done.
Madam President?
Yes.
I would like to say that I know you guys worry about spending money, you worry about how much money is being spent. And if you look at the history of our PIF, there's been projects on there for years, and the estimated amount has been on there, because that's what a PIF is. It's an estimate of what may happen in the future. But because your PIF and your monthly assessment has not been raised in the last 5 or 6 years, I think that the previous boards and our management team has done a great job at conserving your money and living up to the fiduciary responsibility, because you have not, this is still one of the cheapest places, retirement places to live in the country. And with the amenities that you have and all the stuff that you are getting and already have, this is one of the cheapest places to live. You can't go anywhere and live for what you're living on right now. So they have done a wonderful job, and will continue to do a good job. And we are looking out for your money. We're not trying to spend it, frivolously. I mean, we have the bid commission. We have a lot of people that oversee this money, and it can be tweaked along the lines. So I would like to commend them, and I think we've done a great job, and I think they will continue to do a great job.
Secretary Lair.
Madam President, I would like to move to approve the recommendation.
Hold on. Before you make a motion, I would like to get member comments, and then we'll come back to
I actually have one more slide to go through.
Please.
Just to finalize. So if we move to the page that is titled Preservation Improvement Fund Budget Summary, Spend by Project by Year. So this is really what you would be approving, and then you would approve whatever PIF amount you feel is adequate. So I'll go through this very quickly. So you can see that we're starting by year. So starting in next year, we have roughly a $9.6 million spend, and I won't go through everything in detail. You've seen it and had time to review it. So 2023, we start phase 1 of Mountain View. So and then we're finishing the Viewpoint Lake repair. So it's $19.5 million. And then in 2024, $9.2 million, 2025, $10.3 million, 2026, $5.057 million, then going into 2027, $3.5 million, 2028, $3.9 million, 2029, $2.9 million, 2030, $9.4, 2031, 5.2, 2032, 3.8, 2033, we have no expenses planned. We need it's a catch-up year. 2034 is when we start Lakeview, so in 2034 and 35, we've split the total cost into $10.5 million for each of those years. So you see the total is $103,404,880.
Okay. So at this time, are there any more questions before I open up for member comments? Yes, Mike Whipprood.
Madam President,
Yes.
Board of Directors, I'd like to address Director Collins' concern a little bit, specifically to Mountain View. So just kind of go back to how this started and where we are. The board presented a list of criteria for a dream, a goal, something neat that we want to do at Mountain View. This 3-page document was approved in 2020, I believe. So we've been faithfully moving out to provide you real numbers and a time frame to build that dream. And that's where we had these architects come in, and we had 2 different versions, 2 different flavors, option 1, option 2. So that's where we are, and we got a good estimate. You see the numbers now. It's like $27 million for phase 1 and phase 2 combined. But that's to build what you, the board, asked us to. So if the board now feels it's too much, you need to come back to us and say, the program, what do you want to cut out? Do you not want to build the 2 pools, 1 pool, not build the gymnasium or the fitness center? I have good faith in these numbers. Those are the numbers. But this was a big dream, too. So if we can afford to do it, yeah, we should. I think we should do it. But again, if we're moving out to build what you asked us to. And these are good numbers. If it's too much, we have to pare back the program, and we would look to the board to provide that direction.
Yes.
Madam President,
Director Collins.
do you have a breakdown of the different parts of the construction costs?
Yes.
For Mountain View? For
Yes.
each, for the gymnasium?
Yes.
For the theater?
I believe President Wilson has that. I know Bill Cook has it.
Okay.
It's
All
very
right,
detailed.
Other than
I'll
the,
look at that.
in the phases. In the phases.
It's not broken. Everything I've been told is until it's not back yet, but it's all preliminary, we don't know the exact.
It's a very detailed budget. We paid money to get the budget, to get that budget prepared by Alston Construction.
Okay, thank you.
Director Collins, this is the detail. So you can certainly come by my office at any time, and I will gladly share this with you. There's nothing we're hiding. Anybody can come into my office at any time and ask questions.
And I do not have that.
I do not think you're hiding anything.
Right, okay.
I have asked in the past, and I just said it's not ready.
Yeah.
It's not ready.
Okay.
That's my only,
Yeah.
I didn't know it was ready yet.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions before I move? Okay. Let me flip back here. All right. Marcia, do we have anyone who has signed up to speak on agenda items?
Jean Totten.
Okay, and just a reminder, we need your name and your number, and you have 3 minutes.
Jean Totten, 148753. Thank you for an excellent presentation. I know it was a lot of work. I went from about 4 questions to more like 15, so I'll never have enough time. Is this going to be available for us to see? Because it was extremely hard for us to see the small print in either a handout, on the website, somewhere. Question 1. Did the Long-Range Planning Committee, I don't know how this works, so did the Long-Range Planning Committee have input? Did members have, do members have input? Is this the only chance that we're going to get to see this presentation before it's a motion? And is that what you're doing today? Are you turning it into a motion? Golf popularity is decreasing. Pickleball is increasing. The building for pickleball would be built in, I couldn't see, 10 years? Is that what you're estimating? Are you demolishing the current Lakeview building and building a separate building? Because you just say something about the last 2 years was Lakeview. I know that's a lot of questions, and I don't know. I think that's what I had.
Would the PIF be on, can we put that on the web page? The PIF plan, if it's approved?
Madam President, that is what I would prefer, is once it's approved, then we certainly can put that out. But if the board decides to put it out earlier, that's fine too. We can put it on the web.
Okay.
I have another question before my time is up and you all answer. Why are you the only one that had the breakout?
I don't have it. I don't have that.
Nobody had the breakout. Nobody had the breakout. Why? I don't understand why. Director Collins has been asking forever for figures, and if you had them, why weren't they given to him?
Hold on.
Ms. Totten, in the management reports that we've had and we presented, we've actually have said that we've had those numbers. And so I know I couldn't tell you which management report it is, but Mike had presented that. And as the new GM, I'm very concerned about transparency. I know that's been the biggest thing and why we've changed our meetings. And therefore, anybody can come in individually and talk to me, and we can talk through those numbers. But there's nothing that we were trying to hide. I believe we shared the total number in the management report, but I can't remember. No? Okay. So we knew that we've presented that we had the numbers. So it's not anything that hasn't been presented.
And the management report is posted at these meetings. Okay. Marcia?
Joe, excuse me, Joe Broach.
Okay.
Lori Ellingson.
Lori Ellingson, 133335. In the last board meeting, Jan Eck and Director Akins both stated that the assessment fees had not been increased for the last 5 to 6 years. That is a false statement. In February 1st, 2016, it was $474. That was a 3% increase from 2015. And February 1st, 2017, they went up to $496 for a 5% increase. I asked Jan Eck at the last board meeting, after the meeting was over, if that was a false statement, if she would be willing to come up and admit that. And she said yes. My other question is, on Phase 3, it says it's based on the proposed architectural plans. Those plans showed the lawn bowling green, the pickleball indoor facility, and the ADA miniature golf. I asked if that was to scale, and I believe I was told that that is correct. I also asked if we could see Phase 1, 2, and 3 to scale together. Do we have those?
Okay. Mike?
Madam President, members of the board, quite frankly, for Phase 3 was a question from the board.
Yes.
In asking, hey, since we're going to have to take out pickleball and lawn bowling when we build Phase 1 and 2, would there be room to build a facility for pickleball in the leftover space, which we're now calling Phase 3. So we quickly went to the architects and asked them the question. So they've done, what you see is that one-page slide that shows that, yes, it could fit. That's the extent that we've done. So, yes, we can show you a lot of neat 3D pictures of Phase 1 and 2 because we've been asked and we have funding available to go get some architecture done on Phase 1 and 2. But we haven't on Phase 3 because I don't have a formal program authorized by the board for what Phase 3 really needs to be. So this was really a space planning exercise at this point in time to give people a level of comfort that, yes, you could build those facilities there, and that's approximately what it could look like. But no more. So mixing Phase 3 and Phase 1 and 2 at the moment, it's not fair because Phase 1 and 2 have been out and moving around for however many months, and we haven't really provided any direction for Phase 3.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Madam President?
Yes.
I would like to say I'm sorry that you feel like I've made a false statement, but nothing has been increased since 2017. I believe that'd be 4 years ago. And I did say that we have not had an increase since 2017. And I'm not sure my addition is correct. If you subtract 17 from 21, that's 4 years. So it has not been increased in 4 years, and that's what I said.
And we're not increasing it in 2022?
And we're not increasing in 2022, so that'd be 5 years. Thank you.
Okay. Any other people signed up, Marcia?
No one else has signed up to speak on agenda items, Madam President.
Okay. So now I come back to the board on the proposal from General Manager Cook. Yes, Secretary Lair.
I move to approve the recommendation of the Finance Committee and the General Manager to increase the PIF fee to $4,000. I also move that the approval of this budget will replace all prior board-approved PIF budgets and projects not already completed or in progress.
Second.
Seconded by Director Schroeder. Yes, discussion. Seeing no discussion, I'm going for the vote then. Vice President Eggy.
Yes.
Secretary Lair.
Yes.
Director Collins.
No.
Director Schroeder.
Yes.
Director Hofer.
No.
Director Westmeyer.
Yes.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes first reading, 7 to 2. Okay. At this time, we move into member comments. Marcia, do you have anyone signed up for member comments?
Candy Ruggiero.
Just a reminder, when you come to the microphone, please state your name and member number, and you will have 3 minutes as indicated by the light on the stage.
Good morning. My name is Candy Ruggiero. My member number is 15780. Madam President, members of the Board of Directors, and fellow members, I am a candidate for election to the Board of Directors this year. I wanted to take this opportunity to apologize for not participating in the candidate forums that were held about a couple weeks ago. A couple of days prior to the forum, I came down with a very severe case of the COVID virus, and I didn't feel that it was responsible for me to come out and potentially expose other members to this very terrible virus. I could not attend the forums, nor could I, in clear conscience, participate. I have recuperated and well past my 14-day quarantine. My recent COVID test has come back negative. I am ready to resume active participation in the election process, and I urge my fellow members to make your voices heard and vote for the candidates of your choice, and encourage your friends and neighbors who qualify to vote as well. And I hope I am one of the ones that you choose. Last but not least, I would like to thank all the members of the current Board of Directors for the multitude of hours you have devoted to the service of our community. I thank you.
Thank you, Candy.
Russ Bourne.
My name is Russ Bourne. My card number is 48322. Good morning, members of the board. And I want to say good morning to everybody out here who has to stand here and listen to all this stuff. Thank you. I've lived in Sun City since 2004, and I happen to live on Dawn Lake. Like everybody else, the people on Dawn Lake, just like you guys up there, we pay our PIFs, we pay our dues. We are members of the Sun City community, participate in clubs, active in sports, we volunteer in a lot of organizations, but we are not a separate entity or community. We are Sun City. Now, as directors, each one of you know your duty, your fiduciary duty to everyone who's a homeowner here. And that fiduciary duty extends to the people on Dawn Lake, even if we have a disagreement with management. When an important issue arises and a serious matter comes up, part of your duty is to provide a forum so that when people have information that you need to hear, they can provide it for you. Especially if that decision that you make after hearing that information can avoid litigation. And I don't want you to take this as a threat, I'm just saying. That's why you need all the information. An issue has arisen on Dawn Lake over Dawn Lake water, and it's one that the whole board needs to handle. Quick background. Dawn Lake has always been used to irrigate Lakes East Golf Course. The 69 deed restrictions have always said that we're a water storage area for Lakes East. Your own, RCSC's own application for Type 2 water rights says we're a reservoir for Lakes East. The water comes in, it gets pumped out onto the golf course. And RCC does receive a benefit. They can draw a lot of water out of that lake at one time for the golf courses. And when the lake gets rain and runoff, you guys get free water. Now, there's rules, though, that you have to follow. And when taken over from Del Webb, RC board signed 2 documents, and that was in 1975 and 1977. And both documents specifically reference the original 1969 deed of restrictions. From the beginning, RCSC followed the same established practices of Del Webb when replacing water for seepage and evaporation. For 50 years, the established practice, the course of doing business, if you will, is that they gave us water lost through evaporation and seepage, and we pay the electrical cost. Over the years, we've had a lot of differences, but we settled them amicably. We've always relied on the restrictions. We've always relied on our agreements to settle everything. But then something out of the ordinary happened.
Okay. Gerard Dykstra.
My name is Gerard Dykstra, and my membership number is 148176. I'm here to speak on behalf of the residents of Dawn Lake. I serve as Vice President of the Dawn Lake Homeowners Association. On July 27, members of our HOA requested a meeting with Bill Cook and some of his staff for the purpose of meeting Bill Cook and introducing him to our HOA. What we intended to be a meet and greet turned very quickly into a litany of what RCSC intended to do and the impact of those plans on Dawn Lake. We were told that we were not invited to meet with AWR when RCSC met with them because RCSC's interests might be in conflict with those of Dawn Lake. At that point, Mr. Cook told us that we should hire an attorney, which we subsequently have done. Mr. Cook then proceeded to tell us they were under no obligation to maintain the water level in Dawn Lake, and in 2023, if ADWR reduced the amount of water available, we would likely have to find another source of water for Dawn Lake. They also informed us that we were no longer a golf course lake. While there was much more that was said, at the end, Mr. Cook again reiterated that we should hire an attorney. We left the meeting in shock over what we had heard from the staff. None of it made any sense given our 50 years of receiving adequate water, first from Del Webb and later from RCSC. However, we also understood that we had time to resolve the issues Mr. Cook had raised because we had been told that any reduction would not take place until 2023. From our perspective, we thought that we had time to work with RCSC and come to an agreement. You can imagine our surprise when on October 29, we received a 2-sentence email from Chuck Hippa. Quote, "This email is to inform you that you have met your allotment for water in Dawn Lake for this year. Thanks, have a great weekend," unquote. Followed by an email from Brian Duthu a few hours later, quote, "Since you have met your allotment, we will only be replacing the water we take out for irrigation." Both emails, close quote, both emails came without warning and without further explanation. Our HOA board president then sent a letter to you as a board requesting an emergency meeting with you. As of today, we have received no reply from the board. We did receive a letter from Mr. Cook, but nothing from the board itself. Thus, we are here today with 2 simple requests. First, we want to avoid litigation and thus would like the opportunity to present our case directly to the board. Second, we ask that the board instruct the staff to maintain Dawn Lake at its normal levels until this matter is fully resolved. Thank you for your time and for the opportunity to speak to you.
Gene Webb.
Hold on, Bill.
Madam President, Board, Mr. Dykstra, I'd like to address that meeting that we had on July 27th. It was requested by Mr. Dykstra, and quite honestly, I thought it was a pretty amicable meeting, and my message was that with ADWR scrutinizing the amount of water usage and in looking at trying to prepare our plan with ADWR, we wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with respect to their allotment and especially with respect to our water rights. So the message is that ADWR has clearly stated that Dawn Lake has 232.5 acre-feet of water allocation on an annual basis. And so therefore, I want to make sure that we are in compliance because now we've asked ADWR for a favor. And if they scrutinize and really do a deeper dive and they find out that, you know, if we're going over in any aspect of what their requirements are, then we may not get what we're asking for. And the 232.5 has been in existence from day one. It's a clear allocation based on your surface area of the lake. It's no different than Viewpoint Lake in terms of what we get there. So I'm not making any changes other than I want to make sure that we are complying with what ADWR requirements are.
Okay. Okay.
Gene Weber.
Good morning, Madam President and board members. I am Gene Weber, member number 24996. I also reside on Dawn Lake. I'm a retired CPA and I am Dawn Lake's numbers guy. We have been good stewards of Dawn Lake. Over the years, we have spent over $365,000 for improvements to improve the gunite walls and liner of Dawn Lake. We've replaced upper sections of the walls and have done a massive program throughout the years of putting 3/4 inch to 1.5 inch of river rock along the bottom of the walls to prevent undercutting and to cover the exposed liner wherever it exists. That $365,000 figure really only counts the actual money spent. It does not take into account the thousands of hours that the hardworking men and women of Dawn Lake have voluntarily put in. What is the result of that hard work and expense? It is our very low seepage. Every year we do a seepage test. Every 2 years we try to have a hydrologist give us an independent analysis in a written report. We have always shared our results with RCSC management. RCSC has never contested our results. The hydrologist who authorized and authored the reports gave this example in 2018. Concrete lined canals have an average seepage rate of 0.84 inches per day. Dawn Lake's seepage rate for 2018 is 0.0873 inches per day, which is 90% less than concrete lined canals. We lost only 100.6 acre feet through seepage last year, while Viewpoint Lake lost approximately 585 acre feet. We also test for golden algae in the fall and winter and test for E. coli in the summer. We walk around the lake every year and sometimes twice a year, examining the walls and surveying the bottom of the walls and making sure there's no liners showing. I personally get water meter readings every month from RCSC. I put them in a spreadsheet and then adjust for seepage, evaporation, rain runoff, and water used by Lakes East. I usually meet with Angie Nelson quarterly, except during the summer, to compare notes. RCSC relies and agrees with my figures. Recently, I made a chart showing starting in 1976, showing yearly totals of water pumped into and used by Dawn Lake. There are 4 years where we are missing data.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you. We're at 3 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. You can come back, but let me have other people who have not addressed us first time, please.
Bob Ellig.
Good morning. I'm Bob Ellig. My card number is 125660, and I also live on Dawn Lake. I'm here to speak to you about the same things the three previous gentlemen spoke to you about. We have a fiduciary relationship with you members of the board. You owe us candor, and you owe us fair dealing, and I think you all know that, because I've been listening to you talk about your obligations to the pickleball people and to the lawn bowling people and to the golfers. The issue of water in Dawn Lake is a serious one. For us, it's existential. We can't maintain the lake if the recommendations, or the demands, I guess I would say, by your employees comes to fruition. It's a complex issue, and I think that the comments especially of Mr. Weber demonstrates how complex they really are. We cannot accept a situation in which we get less water than we need to maintain the level of the lake. Because if we don't, the lake goes down and ultimately becomes a mud hole. Now, we want to sit down with you and talk with you and see if we can find an amicable settlement that takes care of our needs and takes care of your needs. We have employed an attorney, and as I understand what she has told us, ADWR has not made any decisions about what Dawn Lake is required to do. Now, just like Mr. Bourne, I don't want to say anything threatening, but it is important enough to us that we either have to settle this amicably or we'll have to take it to court. We don't really have any other choice. I don't want to do that. I spent 40 years in a courtroom, and I know that you never know for sure what the result is going to be. From what I've seen of our covenants and the CC&Rs, I like our chances, but that's me. I also ask you to please agree to meet with us so that we can try and resolve this issue, not in 3-minute bites, but by sitting down and telling you everything we know and getting an amicable settlement. I also ask you to maintain the level of the lake until we're able to sit down and resolve the issue. I suggest those are reasonable requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan.
Madam President, Board of Directors, gentlemen from Dawn Lake. So here's the history process and the information. Dawn Lake, contrary to Viewpoint Lake, is owned by the homeowners who live on Dawn Lake. Viewpoint Lake is owned by RCSC. However, the allocation by ADWR has no variance as to who it's owned by. We are allocated 6.2 acre-feet per surface acre of water for all water surfaces. So whether that would be Dawn Lake or Viewpoint Lake, the allocation is the same, and it's stayed the same because what ADWR bases that on is some degree of seepage and evaporation. So what happens is if Dawn Lake's or Viewpoint's Lake's evaporation and seepage is greater than what is allocated to them, then the only option for them to have more water is to take that away from the golf courses. And historically, what happens is if you take water away from the golf courses, which is already very limited by ADWR, in time what you do is you create such salt built up within your golf courses, it'll get so it won't grow anything. That's the old farm girl talking to you now. But the process of 232.5 acre-feet is not something we set. That's something ADWR sets. And I do have communication way back 2008, 2009, exactly in this regard about the 232.5 acre-feet. So if what it requires, and stating to Dawn Lake that we cannot be responsible for the level, but we would give them their allocated amount of water. So there has been a time in the past where there wasn't enough water for Dawn Lake, and they purchased water to get the level up where they wanted it. That wasn't a cheap process. We know that because we used to purchase water for Viewpoint Lake as well. So I don't know what a solution would be except to say that Dawn Lake gets all the water they want and the golf course gets whatever's left over in the allocation, because the allocation is all that, at some point, that's all we're going to get. And it's going to get tighter and tighter. In addition, we only have so many water rights. We can't pump more water than we have water rights. So we do not have unlimited water. That's not how it works. So just for your information, that's kind of the situation. And evidently, I wasn't involved in the meeting, so I'm not completely up to date, but evidently the situation is that Dawn Lake's water level is low. at this time, and they're wanting more water.
Okay. Okay.
Lori Ellingson.
Lori Ellingson, 133335. I would like to see if the board, task the board to amend Article 9A of the Articles of Incorporation as follows. It is stated right now, by a vote of 2/3 of the members of the Board of Directors, after a member of the board is absent from 3 or more consecutive regular meetings of the board, or who, in the opinion of such 2/3 of the board members, is unwilling or incapable of performing his or her share of the duties and responsibilities of director. I am asking the board if they would be willing to make a motion to amend that to also include such determination must be evidence-based and related either to the mental illness or gross misbehavior. Should the director whose tenure is in question so desire, due process shall be afforded, including the right to a public hearing. My reasoning for asking the board to make this motion is because a change to the Articles of Incorporation, according to Article 14, it can be proposed by the Board of Directors or by a member petition. The former is considered easier to achieve, and while the membership could take the task of a petition, we prefer to assume that the board would be willing to spearhead such a reasonable measure. It would still be subject to the vote of the members. Would you be willing to take on that task?
Okay. So we cannot take a vote on that? Not here.
I'm not asking a vote. I'm just asking if you would be willing to take on that task.
That's asking for a vote.
You can't speak. You can't say yes or no
I can't say yes or no.
to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, no one else has signed up to speak.
Okay, at this time, we will open the floor for anyone who did not sign up but would like to speak. Again, when you approach the microphone, we ask that you state your name and member number, and each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage.
Pam Spinella, 142721. First of all, let me say thank you. All of you are good people, and you're doing a good job. Really concerned about the water, as is everybody else here. Not confident that ADWR is going to bend for us very much. Except for the lakes maintenance facility, why not put all the other PIF projects not in progress on hold, including Mountain View, until all the lake and ADW requirements are met?
It is something that, as we hear from ADWR, we may have to do that.
Okay. Also, 5K for the PIF, a bit much. 4 seems fine. 5, maybe in a few years, depending on the need or not. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Tracy?
Tracy Bussebarger, 116319. Oh, Madam President and Board of Directors and Management. Okay, first time I did that. These are my opinions and views. First, I want to start by apologizing for not being here on Monday meetings due to I have dog training. But I do keep up on YouTube, so I know what's happening. But I wanted to let you know because I am sort of a fixture here. I feel that the only time one comes to the meetings is if they are not happy and want to point a finger, or only if it's to benefit themselves, and this becomes self-serving, nitpicking. We are to be a team and help each other out. It is okay to agree to disagree constructively. Please, people, don't be the problem. Help to solve it. And to end, I know that's short and sweet, I want to thank the board management for all they do. You guys need more kudos than anyone else, broad shoulders you have, and thank you for being here and serving, because not everybody stands up to do so. So it's not an easy task due to mostly hearing from unhappy people and problems. Problems can be resolved. That's not, that's what we're here for, and we will do that. But I do truly want to thank all of you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You should have got up before me. I was
No, I knew you'd screw it up.
No, I wanted to.
Bill Pearson, 133438. I'm going to come back a second time because I've got something I want to deal with, but I want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Mr. Cook. In the almost 20 years I've lived here, I never have seen that kind of a presentation. It's the way the community should be run, that you look out 20 years, 15 years, and figure out where you're going and how you're going to get there financially. So kudos. I know that the Long Range Planning Committee asked you to do that, and you turned it around very quickly. So that's, for those of you in the crowd, that's a real plus, and you need to know that. I wrote on 55 Places, which is a website since the early 20s, 25 or so, that analyzes age-restricted communities. In 2010, I said between 1999, when PIF was passed, and 2040, we would have in excess of $300 million to invest in this community. Well beyond what the value is of our community, allegedly on the books. But that's a staggering amount of money, and it presents a staggering responsibility to each of you sitting on the stage and those that came before you and that come after you. And so it is important that you be good stewards of the process of how you spend money, and this is a good start, so thank you. When I come back, I'll deal with the ugly side of this, as I told you I would on Talk of Sun City. But for right now, I will say this about the lake. It's been a partnership. Our relationship in the community has always been a partnership, and they're asking you to do something. Meet with them. You don't have to agree. I know they met with Bill, but you're the elected representatives of the lake. Again, if you don't agree, you don't agree. But don't say no. The documents that we were signed, that were built into this community, are critical to the way the community is run and to its success. And if you ignore them or just look, in that little tiny sphere of what's happening right now, you ignore what happened those first 50 years. And you can't do that. I don't care if we're talking about golf. I don't care if we're talking about grandfathering. But there's a document that exists with the lake that was negotiated in '69, and if it says something and you've done something for all these years, don't ignore them now. Just meet with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, first time.
Jean Totten, 148753. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Am I correct that the monies that the corporation pays the lawyer that you mentioned in the Ricky Tolan brouhaha that was recently talked about in the newspaper was hired with RCSC's operating budget?
The lawyer comes out of...
Your lawyer that you
Yes.
often quote.
Yes.
If yes, then doesn't he also represent the members who technically pay into the operating budget from our assessment fees? May we use him also, if so be?
No. No.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, because we don't have a lawyer. Maybe I should get this gentleman over here. My other question is, I've had a couple people ask me, the annual membership meeting, which we're very happy to see happen, is at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. Both of the people who spoke with me work. They're members. They pay their assessment fees. They can't come. I've read into some of your minutes, previous years, et cetera. You've had it at nighttime. Why, and I know you've already gone to the expense of postcards, et cetera, but why did you choose to have it in the morning instead of trying to make it so that everyone in the community could attend?
We've actually had it at night, and we still have not reached quorum on it. So we haven't had the meeting because we're still not reaching quorum even with it at night.
So you presumed or assumed that...
I didn't assume anything. We just set the meeting, and it was just set.
But you just said we didn't meet...
I'm telling you history of it, that we've had the annual meeting at night and have not reached quorum.
But
I'm not saying that I assumed anything. I am saying that is what happened in the past. Why this was set, it was just a time that was selected. It had nothing to do with anything.
Well, we're writing history as we go. This year, we may have a quorum, but it should have been...
And we may have a quorum at 9 o'clock in the morning.
I realize that, but I think from now on, it should be considered for nighttime as well. Or maybe, gosh, why not ask the members which they prefer? There's quite a few of them out there that would probably let you know.
I was going to say, there's not 35,000. Okay. Second time?
Dave Whelan, 17077. Two things. One, the presentation that was up on the screen, why didn't you have hard copies of that back there? Because from where I sat, it would have challenged an eagle with a microscope. That's how small it was.
Okay.
The second thing is the projections for the future on the collection of PIF are incorrect. As Yogi Berra said, there goes that deja vu again. Back when we last raised the PIF, it was based on 1,500 houses, which was transfers that was not realistic. They should take the average of, say, from 2015 to the current, and you're going to get an average probably around 2,200 houses, which vastly changes the amount of the PIF being collected, which then changes a lot of the numbers that we saw this morning. And President Wilson, I think the last person was talking about the annual meeting, and you were talking, you were talking about it also? Okay.
Yes.
We used to have the 2 monthly meetings at night.
Yes, we did have, but we stopped doing that quite a while ago.
I know.
Yeah.
I was confused.
Yeah, no problem, Dave.
Gee, I have 1 minute and 35 seconds. I don't know what to say. Well, the best thing I can come up with is Rich. Hey, those financial people you talk to, probably banks and the like, I hope those aren't the people that bought those AAA-rated subprime securities back in 2006.
No, but they all know you.
And, well, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
I'll give my minute to somebody else.
Okay, second time.
Gene Weber, 24996. Madam President and members of the board, I'd like to continue where I was stopped due to a fast clock. Okay. Recently, I made a chart starting in 1976 showing yearly totals of water pumped into and used by Dawn Lake. There are 4 years where we are missing data. The numbers show that 24 years, Dawn Lake received more than 232.5 acre feet. In 17 years, where Dawn Lake needed less than 232.5 acre feet. In the years that we received less, RCSC was able to use that water for other needs. Also, just to put in the back of your minds, when you fix Viewpoint Lake, you will reduce your seepage from 585 acre feet a year down to 2 or 3 acre feet a year. That gives you another 583 acre feet of water, which you haven't had for decades. So be aware of that. I know we're going to use it for something else, but not for Dawn Lake. I think that it is incumbent upon this board to allow Dawn Lake to make a full presentation and discuss issues with the entire board. If you want your management team to attend, they are invited and may ask questions after we have completed our entire presentation. But you as elected directors should hear all the facts. And believe me, what you've heard today from the general managers is not all the facts. There's a lot more that would drastically change your opinion. Before allowing management to go ahead and make critical decisions that are detrimental to Dawn Lake. So please, I beg you, to all of you, not just a few of you, but all of you, to open up a forum where we can visit with you and present all of the facts. Believe me, I'd have to bring binders of stuff to show you everything. We just don't have the time in 3 minutes to do that. Thank you very much.
Okay. General Manager Cook.
Thank you, Madam President, Board of Directors, Mr. Weber. Just to address the 585 acre feet of seepage, we did, Jan actually negotiated administrative relief for the third management plan to cover that until we do actually fix that. So we actually negotiated to cover that seepage.
Okay. I also have a question then, and Jan, maybe you answer it. Even though we have that leakage and even though we fix that leakage, that does not mean that we have more water. We have to do it as how much we pump.
You're absolutely correct. We cannot, as Janet said, we cannot go over our rights.
Okay. Okay.
Russ Bourne, number 48322. Pardon me. I want to pick up on what somebody said. We are here to solve a problem. That's why we want to talk with you. That's why we want to have a meeting with you. But there's something more important that has to happen right now. Just to explain really quick. When RCSC management, not you, when the management sent us an email on October 29th saying they're not going to replace seepage and evaporation, that was in total disregard of the 1969 deeds of restrictions. It was in total disregard to a policy that older boards signed, 2 agreements that older boards signed that said, we agree with what's in 1969 restrictions, paragraph 5, 6, and 7. And in those paragraphs, it says, we are supposed to get our water for seepage and evaporation replaced. So what management did when they said, we're just going to give you the water for water we take out, that means we're not getting water for evaporation, which we always did for 50 years, and we're not getting any for seepage, which we always did for 50 years. That has a crazy impact on Dawn Lake. We're already, at the end of this month, going to be 5 inches down from our level. By January 1st, we'll be 10 inches down if we don't get replacement for seepage and evaporation. And what I want to tell you is that was the status quo for 50 years. When they sent us an email saying they're not going to give us evaporation and seepage, they basically were saying that we're not going to pay any attention, we're not going to honor the procedures set out in the deed of restrictions in 1969. They basically were saying that we're going to repudiate 50 years of a precedent-setting course of doing business where we gave you water for evaporation and seepage and you paid us for it. That's what happened for 50 years. And they also said, oh, by the way, I mean, not directly, but they said those agreements that the board signed with Arizona Title, who represented Del Webb, we don't care about them. We're not paying attention to them. That's what essentially happened. Here's what we want to do. We want to meet with you. We want to give you all the facts that you can have. But one of the things I think you need to do right now is to tell management to turn the water back on, replace the seepage and evaporation so our lake's not down 10 inches. Because I have to tell you, we're not going to wait till January 1st. If by December 1st we got a problem, we're going to be in court, and we'd like to avoid that.
That's yes.
Madam President, Board of Directors, it's true that it says in the agreement we're to replace the seepage and the evaporation of the water of Dawn Lake. But in 1969, there was no allotments. We didn't get allotments until 1984, 85. So when those allotments came into place, that changed things for us. So that would basically be saying, okay, everyone else has to follow ADWR except for Dawn Lake. And that's just not how it goes. That's not an option for us. So when that came along, that ADWR created these allotments, that's when it changed.
Okay, and the last comment that was given to us that we would be in court by December, to me, it sounds like we should not be talking anymore.
You'll have to talk to your legal counsel, I presume.
Okay, okay.
Madam President?
Yes. Yeah, I think it died.
I got turned off. I've been turned off before. That's all right. You guys keep coming up and saying that you would like to meet with us, but you've never asked us and you never gave us a chance to answer, but you keep saying over and over again, we want to meet, we want to meet, we want to meet. We heard you, and we'd like you to ask us that question, but you haven't done that. I mean, you asked us a question, but you have not.
It's something that we will have to take into consideration.
Yes, so you keep asking us over and over again, they'll give us a chance to answer, and we will answer it when we are told we can answer that. So you keep asking the same thing over and over again. I'm not sure why.
And again, it's something we'll have to talk about as a board. Okay. Okay.
Sherry Marcio, 14465. My comments are regarding the PIF budget presentation. I appreciated it. One thing I didn't see really come through, I saw a list of projects, not so much vision. And in the next 12, 13 years moving forward, I saw fixing things, not necessarily creating new things and attracting new things. Dog parks, walking, running paths, technology centers, security, those kinds of things. And so I hope that the budget's not so tight that we're not allowing room for some other things to happen, because there's a lot of cool things that are coming over the next 10, 12 years, and they definitely deserve a big amount of room in the budget.
Thank you.
And the PIF plan, just so you know, it is an adjustable plan. It is just giving us kind of a roadmap. That doesn't mean that you may not change things. Every board goes through and
Understood,
changes.
but what, it looks like a list of projects, not so much vision. And so that was
Madam
my...
President?
Secretary Lear.
I would like to say just the Long Range Planning Committee does a lot of that. And I think it was either late last year, we did a presentation on PIF. And what we did is we looked at how to evaluate all facilities objectively and then how to prioritize those. And we did talk about trending, dog parks, dog-friendly facilities, that sort of thing.
I want to just take one thing out of context here, just a moment, and I'll come back. Jan Eck, before you skim out of this building, just so everyone knows, this is Jan Eck's last board meeting after 15 years. So Jan, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut in, but before she skimmed out, I wanted to get that done. Okay. Had we answered?
I think so.
Okay.
Gerard Dykstra, 148176. I appreciate Ms. Atkins' comments about the fact that we haven't asked the question. I would like to clarify that that question was asked in writing, and we received no response from the board in regards to that question. That question has been asked numerous times. I perhaps don't understand the format in which we need to ask the question, but our question is, will you meet with us to discuss this? One second comment is that we came here allotted 3 minutes, possibly 6 minutes to speak, each of us, on this issue. And then when we spoke, the staff got up and responded and began the discussion. We're simply asking for that discussion with the board to take place, nothing more. And in the meantime, to allow us to receive enough water so that the lake is not damaged during the time that we need to discuss this with you. So that is a formal request at this point on our part to meet with the board of Dawn Lake Homeowners Association, their Lake Management Committee, and this board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen McAdam, 122045. Wrong number. So I'm back asking once again about the mechanics of the annual members meeting scheduled for December 13th. And I thought I would take advantage of the fact that we have a parliamentarian with us today to see if maybe, despite multiple public requests for answers, maybe today we'll actually get one or get one promised early enough for it to make a difference. So the question is, provided that a quorum is established and membership has submitted, for instance, an amendment to the bylaws, it's on the agenda, what actually happens when that agenda item is dealt with? The bylaws themselves, and in conjunction with the Articles of Incorporation, seem to contradict one another. Article 4, Section 3 states that once a quorum has been established, appropriate business may be conducted and decided by a majority vote of the members present. Article 4, Section 5 provides the means for ballot voting among the members present. Article 4, Section 4, however, states that proposals or matters relating to the conduct of the business affairs of the corporation are only brought forward as a recommendation to the board for further study. So my question is, what gets voted on and what doesn't? We have received contradictory verbal answers to this question, and now we would like to have clarity. And the answer that we will follow our bylaws and articles is not sufficient, as these present mutually contradictory information. Furthermore, if the amendment is voted on, Article 8.4 of the Articles of Incorporation states, in the event of conflict concerning the bylaws as amended, modified, revised, or revoked by the directors, the action of the members shall prevail. This indicates that the board may not simply take the matter as a recommendation for further study, but must yield to the will of the membership without requiring the membership to take any further action. Do you agree with that?
What happens is if a bylaw if they bring a motion for it, it is directed to the board then considers it, the board comes back, gives you an answer on it. If that is not accepted by the membership, then they have the right to get the signatures and then to ask for a special meeting to vote on it.
Madam President, that contradicts the Articles of Incorporation. I would encourage you to look again, as I stated here at Article 8.4, that says the will of the members shall prevail, not if they do a petition and gather 3,200 signatures off property. It simply says the will of the members shall prevail.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you.
Jean Totten, 148-753. I apologize for so many times, but I have questions, and this is the only place. Since I confused petition and proxy, and Ms. McAdam just mentioned it again, at the annual membership meeting, where a quorum of 1,250 votes are necessary in order for members to introduce a motion, such as the one Mr. Tolan wanted to introduce regarding our president, we can take a proxy sheet to a club that we are a member of. That person needs to take it outside to the sidewalk or the street and sign it and bring it back to us. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't bring the right paper with me. I just wanted to go back a little also to the business about what time of day. I would think that since you all say that you have our backs and you're for the membership, and you all got up there from our votes, then I would think that you would want to see the members attain a quorum. We haven't had a membership meeting since 2009 where any business has been conducted by the members. So please don't assume that because in the past you had the meeting at nighttime and no one came. Don't assume that this year it's the same, and just always keep that open. Ask the members. There are people who are involved in clubs. I'm sure there's men and women who are golfing at 9 in the morning, and I'm sure they'd rather golf than attend a membership meeting, especially since you didn't mention you're giving away free food or entertainment. So please take that into consideration for next year's membership meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Pearson, 133438. Our early documents, the ones that in 1972 became the RCSC, started in 68, the official name of the RCSC came in 1972. Those documents provided the perfect symmetry between the relationship between the community and the board. They were brilliant. In the last 15 years, they've changed dramatically, which I've lamented time and time again, because that symmetry has been lost. However, the documents still exist, And they are the very basis of why we exist and how you have to operate. So let me pick your brain a little bit. Everybody agrees the articles of incorporation are the highest order.
Yes.
No argument there. Okay. Specifically, Article 8 says, Section 8, the director shall have the right to adopt bylaws not in conflict with the articles of incorporation. Article 9 of the articles say there's a lengthy description on how to recall a director. Pretty straightforward. No question when you read it. I'm not going to read it all. It's lengthy. But it's very specific. Article 9 of the bylaws says this: a recall petition will set forth the name of the board of the director whose removal is desired and the reason for recall. The attorney sent out a letter to Ricky, the person that applied for the recall, and said, you have to state which provision of the bylaws or the articles the person that was going to be recalled violated. I don't see it in there. Is there anybody on the board, and I think you're all smart people, I know management is a bunch of smart people, can anybody read to me where it says that? Yeah, I didn't think so. Look, I wrote contract language. I'm not an attorney, but I wrote language because what I learned early on was clear and unambiguous language is freestanding. You can't supplement your intent with what you think it says or what you'd like it to say. What it says is what it says. Live by it, guys.
Okay, at this time, I am moving to board comments. I'm sorry, I did not see you, and we're going to go ahead with board comments. We'll get back to you. I can answer your question afterwards. Okay, at this time, is there any member of the board who has comments that they would like to make? And keep in mind, you will have 3 minutes for your comments.
I only have 3 minutes?
You only have 3 minutes, Gene.
Well, in regard to the Dawn Lake issue, I see, did we eliminate the Dawn Lake committee where we meet with Dawn Lake once a year? I don't see it.
We have not had it.
I don't see anybody's on here yet. So we do have a committee, right?
Viewpoint Lake.
No.
Viewpoint.
Yeah, that's Viewpoint Lake.
Yeah, I know, but before that, we had a Dawn Lake committee because I was on the Dawn Lake committee. I met with the Dawn Lake people before. So that committee has been eliminated, right?
I don't believe we have one. I have not been a
that's
part of
all.
one.
Now, the other thing, I'm going to keep going.
I'll tell you when.
Thanks. We're now giving Dawn Lake, Bill, 232.5 acre feet a year, right? I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Director Westmeyer, yes, you are
Okay.
correct.
And what they're asking for now is because of leakage and evaporation, they need more to fill the 5 inches above it, correct?
Well, as you heard before, there's years where we use less than 232 and more, so I don't know what drives that.
Yeah.
But I knew that ADWR, their calculation includes seepage and evaporation as well. So there's assumptions in there.
Okay. So in your meeting with them, did Dawn Lake tell you that they have talked to ADWR, or they're just talking to us?
No, they asked to join us, and I declined because I didn't want to confuse, what we were trying to ask. And Dawn Lake is not, we don't own Dawn Lake, so I didn't want to negotiate on behalf of something that I don't own.
It's a private lake, I understand.
Correct.
So they're asking for a meeting with the full board to present their case, but I guess I got a question for Dawn Lake people. Did you actually meet with or contact ADWR or not?
Gene, at this time, because
they
we
threatened
have
a lawsuit.
mentioned, yes.
Well, I wish you guys wouldn't have done that. Because I can't ask. Okay, so we really need to decide whether we want to have a meeting with them or not based on.
And that will have to be a board decision. This is the first time the board has met since that came in. Other board comments? Director Collins.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is for, mic's not working. Do I cover it up?
Your mic is not
Try
working.
mine.
My question is for Chris. I know you weren't here last meeting, but the softball team, or the softball wanted to build a storage facility that they said they were going to help pay for, and I'm wondering if anything has gone forward with that.
Madam President, Director Collins, Board of Directors, I've had a conversation with Ron, who was before the board at that meeting, and because of the PIF presentation today, we have not taken any steps forward with that, because that would be most applicably constructed within the PIF plan that we have, and since that was being placed on 2022, it seemed most appropriate that that be the first avenue to proceed with that building.
So that would be not only the storage facility, but the clubhouse?
Yes.
So, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Other board comments? Okay, our next meeting is December 6, 2021, here in the Sundial Auditorium at 9 a.m. I'm asking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Secretary Lair.
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Eggy. All those in favor? All those in favor?
Aye. We will.
No, as I said, I'll talk to you afterwards.
Yeah, we'll talk afterwards.
We said that.
Okay. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
You see what we're
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.